Okay, so this is the Erica Mannequin. And you know, one of the things I really like about this, first of all, before I get started with the technique, is that you can cut it short and still have it look good, where I think that shows the quality, you know, of the mannequin, where a lot of times when you do your shorter looks, they don't look so pretty, right? Now, I'm going to start out, and this might be a little bit of a fearful place for some of you guys to start out, right in the front. We're going to be doing quite a bit of change and starting my layering right through the forehead, right? So I guess you could call this kind of a pixie. I mean, when I think of a pixie, I think of short all over, right? So this will have a little bit more movement to it in certain areas, a little bit of length, but I think we could give it that, you know, terminology. So starting out right through the center, right? I section off this vertical section from the parting down. Now I'm taking perpendicular sections and I'm going to work all the way down to the bottom of the ear.
I want to let everyone who's watching know that we'll be looking for your questions to share with Julian.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you know, I'm a full-time educator, which means I love questions, right? So I want to leave it long enough that it has a softness through the front where, you know, if you take it too short, it might look a little bit aggressive. You know, I still want it to look soft for it.
And is it kind of like the same length? Is it like following the head at the same length? Not longer or shorter towards the front?
Not cutting with the curve of the head shape. Now, you could really simply, if you wanted it even longer through the front, just lift that out and keep it longer towards the brow. You know, so just adjusting that angle gives you the flexibility to create different looks with the same sectioning pattern. So you can see now, taking the sections, and as I said, I'm going to work through, combing up. Now, the combing up is really important because what that's going to control is how much length I have through the outline in the bottom by the ear. So if I wanted to do something longer, I could lift up really, I mean, technically I could take everything up to the first one, and I'm going to get this concave layer that leaves a lot of length through the perimeter. For me today, I'm going to take it a bit shorter than that. But I am still combing it upward because I do want to keep some softness through the edge.
So you're combing into the previous section, building a little bit of length with each section?
Yeah, roughly. And, you know, I think when we use the term into the previous, you know, a lot of times we take it a little bit too literally, right? So it's towards the previous, but it could be a little bit more, a little bit less based on how much length. You know, so when I'm teaching class, I always try to, you know, have the students understand that the control is up to them.
So we have a few friends. We've got Ivan Duda from over in Croatia.
Ah, awesome. Nice to see you.
We've
Nice
got
to hear from you, Ivan.
Ronnie King says, what's up?
All right, man. Some familiar. So there's some familiar people from our live broadcasts.
Yeah, Julian's done many lives with us at Hairbrained and has had millions of views. Always kind of focused on precision haircutting, and he's sharing some of that here today.
Yeah. Well, it's been a little bit of time, I think, since we've done one together.
Well, you've moved out of California.
I'm back on the East Coast, you know, but for those of you that are from the States, we're celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Fam, what's up, fam?
So I'm out here. I was doing a class in San Diego, which was really great. I was out there teaching a class for our local distributor, Bassett. And, you know, with Davinus Hair Products, which is who I do most of my work with these days.
Michael Cooney, wishing you a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Michael. Okay, so now
Frank Mussolino is here.
Frank's
saying what? Yep, Frank, we're all get together, families all together for Thanksgiving. Julian's out here in California. He's a little sick of the cold weather back east.
You know what? I can't. The one thing that's killing me, man, my feet are always cold, no matter what. I can wear a jacket, I can wear a hat, I can wear all sorts of stuff, but my feet are always cold.
All right, so is this cross-checking now? This gives us a good idea of the weight that you build up.
And I wanted to show the length and the angle that I created, you know, by pulling it out with my fingers, right? So you can see that's going to leave this softness, you know, through the edge.
So really, you know, you kind of took this like face framing section, kind of like halo-like section, and then layered perpendicular to that section, over directed into the previous, and just make this nice kind of shape around the face.
Now, I just did a very similar technique. I was teaching, like I said, I was teaching in San Diego the other day, and you know, one of the focuses that we were teaching, that I was teaching, was a shag. And, you know, that's become something super popular with my classes. I think shag, pixie, barbering, curly hair. That's dominating my classes right now. So I did this similar pattern, but I did it here, right? So I started out about 6 inches and then combed everything towards the top, and it really worked this beautiful face frame. So you just think of this same angle, right? But think of it out here, and where's it going to fall? And it really, I mean, the students loved it. They're like, oh, I could do this on so many clients.
I mean, you know, that's the thing about, you know, geometric precision hair cutting. Once you understand it, you can kind of plug it into anything. It's about over direction, elevation, finger angle.
Yep.
Yep.
And it puts you in the driver's seat. You know, so that's the one thing. I mean, Gerard and myself, we, you know, come from a Sassoon background. And, you know, one of the things that I always say, they taught me how to cut hair, which allows me how to choose to cut hair, right? So if I can imagine it, I can cut it.
If you can believe it, you can conceive it.
All right, so the trick here, guys, is to try to get the same elevation, right? So, you know, using my previous section as a guideline, you know, combing up towards it. We'll see how consistent I am on a Wednesday morning here in Los Angeles, or not Los Angeles, Orange County.
They get it right.
Yep, I'm so used to saying Los Angeles.
What's your tension like here, and does that matter?
Well, I mean, I think tension has probably the smallest effect on what we do, unless we're working with really curly hair. I like to work with a moderate to tighter tension, especially when I'm layering. Now, I mean, I do back off a little bit with graduation, and I definitely minimize the tension when I'm cutting one length. But, you know, overall with this, I want to get as clean of a line as possible. You know, so I am working with quite a bit of tension, and, you know, it's going to help me create softness within the haircut.
Any tips on how to keep this balance from side to side?
Yeah. Practice, right? So I think trying to control your body motions the same way, you know, so here, you know, I'm standing and I'm getting myself in a nice balanced stance, and I'm working and I'm trying to create that shape, right? Keeping everything in the center of my body. Also using, you know, use my eye, visually looking to see where I am as I'm cutting each time. So like when I'm here, you know, I'm up above the eye, right? So I'm looking at the face shape and where I am with the face shape. I also, you notice a lot, I use my hand, right? So my hand is on the head. So I get that shape with my fingers and I can feel the angle, right? So when I'm here, I'm trying to do the same. Now that I'm checking it, you can see I was a little bit higher on this side, right? So looking at the same part of the head shape, working the same body position, cutting in the center. Consistency is so important. You know, it's like anything that we do. You know, we have to try to do it the same way over and over. I don't care if you're, you know, playing an instrument, if you're throwing a baseball, a football, if you're doing anything that requires physical motion. It's about repetition to build that consistency with what we do, which takes time.
Julian, now I know that you're almost every weekend out there teaching classes.
Yeah.
How important is it, you know, the quality of the mannequin? You know, sometimes we go to teach class and people, maybe students have cut corners, and they're like, I got it on Amazon for $29.
And I get it. I sympathize with it, guys. I mean, you know, we're trying to conserve and stuff like that, you know, money and things, but you get what you pay for. Yeah. You know, so just by putting that little bit of extra in. Now, having said that, like when I teach a class, you know, I use pivot point as much as I possibly can, right? Sometimes I'm not in control of that, right? But you think about that one mannequin, how many haircuts we get out of it. You know, I mean, you could get 7 or 8 haircuts, if not more, out of it if you plan your day properly, or you plan your time properly. Right. I'm cutting a lot off here, guys, because I'm showing you something, you know, that a technique that I want.
And a mannequin like the Erica from Pivot Point is one of their most affordable and most versatile.
Right.
It's generally like in the $60 range, I believe, and it's available at Pivot Point Shop, which is their online store. Just go to Pivot Point International, Pivot Point Shop, and again, one of the things I love about this one is it's got a slightly smaller head than some of the full-size ones. And what I love about that is you can get through the same haircut in the same lesson with a little less sections. So you still learn the same thing whether you do it with 15 sections or 13 sections.
Right.
But you can get through it a little bit quicker. That's one of the ways that you can save money is by buying a slightly smaller head mannequin.
And even with the size of it, it's still proportionate.
No, it's actually like a normal size head because sometimes the full size ones are kind of big.
Yep. All right, so I just want to show you the sectioning, guys, that I did here. Right, so now it's almost like two triangles coming down from the parting. You know, I didn't do it into a point, right? So working with the natural part of the hairline, it's falling to just about the back of the ear on both sides, which is also nice when you're trying to not create a hole, right? You know, so that gives you the ability to control this length through the bottom really good. So the sectioning is going to be the same or similar. I'm going to take my sections now from the crown, right? You can see working with the head shape, right where that comb lays flat on the head is really important. Right here, where the comb lays flat on the head. So that was my choice of sectioning, which works with the curvature of the head. When we take our major zones or panels, whatever terminology you like to use, right? I try to always work with the head shape. Like I'm not going to just take it at a random point because my fingers are 3 inches long, right? So I'm working with the head.
Well, another great point, if the mannequin doesn't have a good head shape, which again, I've worked with some of the cheaper ones and they're like alien head shapes and misshapen and you know, you can't really learn that way where the Pivot Point mannequins have the perfect head shape.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know what you're getting every time.
Yeah, and it's like working on a real person.
Right. You know, and it's funny. I mean, I don't take it as far as studying how they're made. I'm sure you know more about it than I do, Gerard. But however they're woven, you know, into the scalp, they also have like a growth pattern to them.
Totally.
They have a natural kind of swirl and a natural parting, which are really good.
So each one of these mannequins is handmade. Takes up to 8 hours to make one. Okay, that's another reason why they're not, you know, cookie cutter, the cheapest of the mannequins out there because quality goes into it. And all of that, when I get in close, all that implementation of hair is done by hand. It's actually kind of sewn through the head. Yeah. There's a great video. If you go again to the Pivot Point International website, Pivot Point Shop, and check it out, you will see that there's a video that shows the process. It's very, very interesting what it takes to create a mannequin.
Yeah, it's funny because like I'm known for saying like people are like, well, why do you use that one? I'm like, because it's good.
Yeah.
Right. Just really simple. Like, why do you use those scissors? Because they work.
Right.
Right. You know, and that's really important. Right. And I mean, I do this for a living. So, you know, for me, if I was cutting really poorly made mannequins or using really, you know, poorly engineered scissors and things like that, I mean, my life would be miserable.
Ronnie King is wondering, is that disconnected from the fringe? And
good eye, Ronnie. See, Gerard was talking too much when I was doing that, so he didn't give me the opportunity to explain. But yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ronnie. Yeah, so you'll see I'm going to cut this section here. And if you look at what I cut underneath in the front, you have about, I'm going to say that's a Julian 2-inch, right? So that's going to fall over top. Now, the judgment of distance of how you separate those two is by the front and how and where you want them to fall, right? So I'm looking for this front length to fall just beneath the underneath of the first panel that I cut. You know, so when we're working with this connection, it's like how the two areas work together. Now from there, I can choose to elevate as much as I want. Right, so I'm going to increase the elevation a little bit.
So it's building a little bit more length.
Yeah, so I'll have a little bit more length behind the ear. This is a nice way also to cut a mullet. right? Because I could lift this all up and I would get this really nice disconnection through the perimeter.
Elizabeth Porter has a story. She bought 2 mannequins on Amazon and they both had nits, which I guess is like lice.
Ugh.
Never again. I'd rather pay a little extra. Yeah, you know, the cleansing process. Yeah. Again, if you go to that Pivot Point International website and check it out, what they do to make sure the hair is cleansed and sanitized and colored and textured properly. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't pay to get cheap.
Could you imagine like your whole house now is infested?
Wow, my house would have fallen down by now. This is like the house that Mannequins built.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to turn to the front so you guys can see the angle. Right? So again, working on that concave angle. You know, it has a little bit of a U shape to it, right? So it's rounded and then it builds out wider. But again, the control.
So you used more over direction, so it's going to start to drop down a little longer. We can see that there. So it's like you got your face frame, and then you go into
something a little bit longer.
I like what I'm seeing here. I didn't think you could surprise me with your.
I've been thinking about this one since I knew that Gerard was filming, so you've
been practicing.
Yeah, he would get excited and be impressed with my work.
Yeah, well, I didn't say that. I just said, you know, I was surprised to see it. No.
You know, also, guys, you know, I know we're focusing on the mannequin right now, but another thing that I really pay attention to when I go to teach these classes is the mannequin stance. Mm-hmm. You know, like this is the Pivot Point mannequin stand, right? It's sturdy. It doesn't shake around and it doesn't move and all that stuff, right? Which is another thing that, you know, if I'm doing this for a living, you know, if you're doing it for, you know, once, you know, it's not as important maybe to you, but when you're doing education on a regular basis.
Well, let's hope that nobody out there is doing education just once. I mean, this is something we should all be doing every week.
Yeah, exactly.
With our.
You know, so make life easy, make it worthwhile. All right, so again, lifting up. The more I lift up, the more length I keep. Yeah, there's some fun stuff here, guys. You know, Gerard was talking about balance. I mean, balance is subjective, right? So why not change the balance up a little bit, right? We can work on asymmetric balances as well. You know, who's to say balance has to be equal proportion from one side to the other? You know, so I can play with these kind of like squiffy looking balances where one's up and one's down, so you get, you know, a little bit of a different kick from one side to the other.
My buddy Sid Sotang here, saying hello.
Having had the opportunity to say hello to Sid, guys, in quite a while. If you're on my Instagram, you can find Sid. He's on there. He's one of the great hairdressers that I follow, right? But I would definitely recommend checking out his work. And you know, he worked with Gerard and I back in our Sassoon days, like so many. Right?
We got history.
We have some history. I won't get into it, but we have some history. All right, so now, again, check. Lift that up. See that that's getting longer.
And what about scissors here? It looks like you're working with a slightly longer scissor.
Yeah. Well, these are the ones that Gerard gave me, and I use these all the time. But they are on Gerard's, you know, the Hairbrain site. These are on HB Pro. These, you know, amazing crafted scissor, right? The handle. Again, why do I use them? Because they work good, right? They feel good in my hand, right? They fit the hand really easily, so I can maneuver them, you know, very comfortably throughout. And then again, one of the things that I always try to say and believe, I mean, what do these retail for, Gerard?
$529, but they're currently 30% off as a Black Friday sale. So we've gone through the whole month of Black Friday sales, and we're finishing up with shears and razors 30% off. So you're saving a couple $100 right now on this scissor if you're looking for new shears, new scissors, and razors.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I know that a lot of us go out there and spend more and things like that, but you know, I'm a true believer that you know, it's the quality, not the price of it. And I'm always trying to recommend great stuff, especially to the new kids in our industry, right? That don't have, disposable incomes, right, that are trying to, get started, you can get a great pair of scissors for $600 that'll last you years and years and years and years.
Well, and right now they're more like less than 400.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with this guy. Yeah.
So you're going into your third panel now.
Yeah, so now I have the back here, right? And basically the back is what I'm left with, right? So I don't have to section it, it's already there. I am going to divide it in half so that I can control it easily. Take that, just get it out of the way, right? Almost out of the way. So now I have this length here, right? So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this from the center piece. But what I want to look at is the proportion from the front, and imagine how the flow is going to work, right? So again, I have to use my eye to see how that balance is going to work, while this will be the longest of the three areas. So you have zone 1 in front of the ear. We'll just say zone 2 is just over and behind the ear. And then the zone 3 that I'm working on now is going to be the back of the head. So again, taking vertical sections, I'm going to lift up. Choose my length here. Again, imagining the roundness and the flow of the head.
And you're not worried about any connection again? Or
No.
How do you think about the length? How do you choose it?
You have to eyeball it, right? You have to visually, and I say that very simple, but there's a process to it. You have to use your imagination to understand, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm saying I have to just imagine that flow, that shape that I'm creating, and choose the right length that's going to work together.
All right, so as a recap, you've worked 3 panels,
Yep.
one around the face, one in the center, building length here. Right now it's got a very kind of like rock and roll look.
Yeah,
Are you going to keep length in the outline, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
So it's kind of like this shag, kind of very rock and roll shag based on these 3 panels. If anyone missed it from the beginning, I know a lot of people are all joining at different times. All these videos are saved on Hairbrain's Facebook page under the Live tab. You just click the Live tab, and we've got well over 700 different lessons with educators from all over the world. And today we're working with Julian Perlingiro right here in our home base in Southern California. He and his family are visiting for Thanksgiving, so we figured we'd get some great education. Brought to you by our friends at Pivot Point, working with the Erica Mannequin, which is one of the most versatile and useful mannequins when training in salon, and the Pivot Point Universal Tripod, which I've had this one for many years. It's traveled the world with me.
You know, it's funny, Gerard, like you said, it has this kind of rock and roll kind of, rocker look to it. It's like, I always think of like, the rock and roll of the 80s is like 70s haircuts with hairspray.
Yeah.
Right? Just really layered through.
And now it's 70s haircuts with more texture and different styling products besides hairspray.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to fundamental hair cutting, I mean, nothing's changed much in a very long time.
Well, I think right now, I mean, for me, what I'm seeing is we have texture, we have more natural, more organic looks. Still, I mean, obviously utilizing products, right? But it's just the way that we use them, the way that we choose to work them with the overall style. I've kind of always really enjoyed it. I mean, it comes from my Sassoon days, just, wash and wear, really simple styles, very kind of organic looking.
That's a nice layered effect there. So you're basically working from the crown all the way down, increasing the length as you go down. It's kind of been a theme with this haircut.
Yeah. And, now you can see I'm relying on finger angle to create the length. So the first panel, I've elevated up to keep the length through the cheekbone. The second panel, I elevated up to keep the length behind the ear. But now, because I'm increasing it so much, I'm angling it and I'm cutting the angle in and over directing back, right? So I'm over-directing back to keep length again behind the ears.
You got all those precision cutter buzzwords right there in one sentence.
Gotta live it. Gotta live the dream.
It's nice how that's forming to the head.
Yeah. The hairdresser magic, right?
Simple but effective.
Yeah.
And it's turning into this very cool rock and roll mullet. I didn't know you had it in you.
See, man? Like you said, I've been practicing. You think I just moved to the East Coast to go fishing?
Yeah, you're like Rocky. You went back to the meat locker and you've been training.
But
what it looks like to me right now a little bit is God, his name is escaping me at the moment. The lead singer from Queen.
Oh yeah.
When he had his Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, that's a Freddie look too.
It's got a Freddie Mercury look.
Yeah. Very cool. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So now I'm going to work the other side. And again, we talked about symmetry and things that we can do to help with symmetry and balance and control. Right. We have to start with controlling our body and controlling the motion, getting a nice grounded base when we cut, so that I can lift and be accurate with my motion, precision haircutting.
80s Bon Jovi.
Oh yeah. Wow.
It's like we were saying, it's very similar shapes. It's just they started using more hairspray.
Yeah.
Freddie Mercury's, they didn't really use a lot of hair product in
Well,
those
I
days.
mean, Frank, Jersey, Bon Jovi. I mean, there's a connection.
Frank wanted to know if you brought me a pizza, and I have to say, sadly, that he did not bring me any pizza.
No,
so
I didn't.
I'm stuck here with West Coast Pizza. If we're lucky, we get Pizza Hut.
I'll be back up in Jersey, getting some good pizza from some of my favorite places.
Now, you've done classes at Frank Mussolino's salon before, as have I.
Yeah. Great group, great salon. Out on
Craft Salon.
Yep, out on the East Coast.
Jersey, baby.
Jersey area.
Well, it's great. That's what's so great here about. We have a lot of people saying how happy they are to see us together.
Yeah.
I have not seen Julian since June. This is maybe the longest in our adult life
I know.
that we haven't worked together and spent time together because he had decided to move back east. But that's okay.
But you notice, I'm the one who came to see Gerard. He can't say that he's made any effort.
Well, I as much as I'd love to visit Delaware, it's a little tough to leave.
Well, I know when you're in New York, you're busy as well.
Yeah.
But
All right. So again, if you're just joining us, we're here with Julian Perlingiro, esteemed educator, working within the Davines world these days, has been for quite a few years now, educating in salon. He was in town in San Diego teaching, so he's up here now for Thanksgiving with his family. He is cutting this beautiful kind of mullety shag look on Erica. Erica is one of our favorite mannequins, favorite educational tools. Thanks to our friends at Pivot Point who continue to sponsor these great educational videos that we bring you at Hairbrained. I encourage you, if you have any education in mind, if you want to practice, that's really the concept behind this, that even hairdressers as experienced as Julian need to continue to practice.
I mean, this is how I work out a lot of my ideas, guys. Like I was saying, I did something similar to this, and I was teaching, a shag class, and, I did something similar to this, and it was just like, it really worked awesome. And I'm like, wow, let me play around with that, how many different ways I can do it. And we don't always have that luxury on a client, right?
We never do.
Yeah, exactly. I was being kind there for a minute. But it's just, I love the way that the layers really fit the head shape, right? And again, you could dress it, you could make it stand out. I like it just kind of droopy looking. I do want to work around the front a little bit. I think the back, I don't need to do much because I have the looseness because of the length, but the front's a little bit stiffer because it is short. So I'm going to just slice down into this.
And talk to us a little bit about this method of cutting.
Well, generally, I would refer to this as slicing. And what I'm doing is I'm just letting the hair fall into the crease where the blades meet and just really lightly wiggling the edge. So I don't want to cut all the way through. I'm going to remove too much. Now, a lot of it has to do with timing. right? So as I cut, I move down. As I cut, I move down. So, you know, the timing and the control. I also, you know, I'm making sure that I have control of my hand by bracing it with my other hand. Because again, I'm working at a very delicate area. You see, I'm keeping the tip of the scissor, the point of the blade away. I'm not going to go into the face. I'm going to go away from the face. This is also something that you could do with a razor. That's another thing. Gerard was very impressed. I've been teaching many razor classes these days now.
Finally rubbed off on you after all these years. I
can't say I'm the master razor cutter like Gerard, but, you know, from working with Gerard for quite some time, doing scissor versus razor, things like that, I picked up, I stole some things from him, right?
Good.
And, you know, I can do a lot of these looks with the razor. Today, my preference was the scissor, but I think, you know, we all have something that we lean more towards, but we should be versed in scissor, razor, clippers, trimmers, thinning shears. All of these things are tools that, I mean, can make hair look amazing.
That's right.
All right, so now, I'm just going to point into it a little bit. So this will take away a little bit more length. You know, you can be as erratic as you want. You know, you can see the mannequin, the hair's not like standing straight out on edge, which tells me the way it was created or made or woven.
Yeah, again, a great point.
Short, and it looks good.
A lot of, you know, less high-end, less quality mannequins when just sticks right out. You can't even get anything out of it. Brian Naiman is asking about the shears that you're using. He's using the 6-inch HB Pro AG. AG stands for anatomical grip.
Yeah, check out the handle, man.
Anatomical grip.
Like, Gerard's talking about anatomical grips. I'm going, dude, look at the handle.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's an anatomical grip.
It feels good.
Made in Japan, not just Japanese steel. These are authentically made in Japan by a member of the Takahashi family, one of the most famous scissor-making families in the industry, known for the Hikari brand. They've moved on and now are creating their own, and we've partnered with them to make these HB Pro scissors. And because you asked, they are currently 30% off for Black Friday. They will be through Monday. So head over to HB Hairbrain Pro. Check it out. Also, please support our sponsor here, Pivot Point. Go to the Pivot Point website, pivotpointshop.com, and be sure to check out what they've got going on. They also have great sales. Yeah. Now, amazing, the little bit of pointing that you've done there is sort of to transform the texture.
Yeah. And you know what I'm doing is I'm going through that zone 2. The first zone that I cut, I think it's a little bit short to cut into it like this. But the second zone, because I have some length, you know, I get the hair spread out on my fingers, and I'm working with the tips about an inch in.
So this kind of modernizes it. I mean, you know, obviously the idea of disconnection, because probably in the 60s, that all this would have been blended. 70s, it would have been blended. You work disconnection to kind of get a little bit more interesting balance, and now all this use of texturizing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the idea of disconnection, it has to be purposeful, right? Like I don't believe like I'm just going to section this off, right, and cut everything and then just leave that out.
We did do some stuff like that in the early 90s, though, didn't we?
No, it was much more of an aggressive time, but I think it's evolved into techniques that we can use in many different forums, in the salon, on a show, for a photo shoot, for education, because we understand it better.
Right on.
But no, I remember the days of shaving everything but a triangle, and letting it out. Yeah. We all have to go through.
Well, but you know, I mean, a disconnection. Everything starts off a bit wild, and then we start to figure out how to use it in salon and make it commercial and consumer friendly. Right. And I think that obviously we've gotten there.
Yeah. All right, so let me just get that hair that I cut inside out. You know, you can just kind of shake it and be in a convertible and it looks okay.
Well, you know, that term shake, I mean, That's kind of what the essence of what you've done. Obviously, you haven't cut it in the traditional shake method.
Right.
But the idea that you can layer it in such a way that you just shake it.
And it works.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to try the gum, right, which is nice.
I love the consistency of that.
Yeah,
It's such,
just,
I've never felt another product. This is gum from Davines.
Yeah, really
I've never
nice
felt
and
another
soft.
product with that same consistency. Really interesting.
Like gum.
Yeah, it is like gum.
I like to get it through my hand, so when I put it in, right, I can choose where I want to dress the hair and how I want to dress the hair.
Yes, Sid, we'd love to have you do another HB Live. Send me a message. On Instagram's probably the easiest place, Sid Sotang, and we'd love to have you do a takeover.
Hey, Sid, question, man. You've been in England for quite some time. Do you still celebrate Thanksgiving? Or are you gonna miss out on the turkey?
Turkey don't eat turkey. Yeah, this looks great. A little bit of product really brought out the texture. And again, you can see the quality of the hair in these mannequins. I mean, you can actually style it.
Yeah.
You can work with your hands. Yeah, look at that little bit. Oh, I got a nice shot here. Look at the lighting is perfect right here.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Right on. Well, another incredible lesson from Mr. Perlingero. It's been too long. We're glad to have you. On behalf of Pivot Point and Hairbrained, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to start a class called Long Hair is Not Boring, right? Because this is fun. I mean, it's a cool haircut. It's a longer shape. Recap on what I did. I worked 3 zones of disconnection. So through the first, I sectioned off this perimeter around the face. I layered that through quite short. That's where you're getting the shorter lengths on the underneath. Then I had my middle area, which was from the back of the crown downwards. Set a new guideline, a little bit longer than the front. And again, over-directed or elevated up to keep length behind the ear. And then finally, the back, I took vertical sections and then worked concave layers. Now, I mean, you can really change the proportions of this and make it look more dramatic with the front being short.
You're even saying it could be asymmetrical.
Could be asymmetrical, but it's just, I mean, guys, whenever you say, could I or what if?
Grab a Pivot Point mannequin and figure it out.
Exactly. Grab a mannequin and do it. If it looks good, it's good. All right?